Hey, what's going on, guys? It's FPL Yusuf and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be going over my game week 4 transfer plans. I'm going to be showing you guys some of the moves I'm going to be making, my future team for game week 4, and also I've activated my wildcard, so I will be showing you a brief, my initial first reaction on my wildcard draft in this video. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for being here with me today for another video on my YouTube channel. Before we get into this, if you wouldn't mind dropping a thumbs up and subscribing down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, so game week 3 review. Let's have a look at my team. So we finished on 79 points all out. A small red arrow of about 13,000 places, so not too bad in the end. It was probably due to the Liverpool game against Man United. Mo Salah coming in big, Luis Diaz getting a brace. So all in all, pretty happy with how the game week's gone. One elephant in the room, though, as you guys can probably see on screen, on this team for game week 3, my bench boost was activated. Now, I don't know how this has happened. I don't know how it got activated, but I changed my team on Friday night because I was going to be away Saturday morning. So I knew I wasn't going to be around for the deadline. So I made the transfer Friday night, which was Isak to Watkins, saved my team and left it. So I didn't check my team till after the deadline. And somehow I've obviously accidentally clicked on bench boost whilst I was setting my team on the Friday night. But yeah, so a little bit disappointed about that. A bit of a waste of a chip. Only getting 3 points, 2 from Greaves and 1 from Munoz. So really just a little bit disappointed with that. But you know what? It's what it is. We have to just move on now. It's done. Overall, pretty happy with how the game week's gone. Like I said, Haaland obviously coming back with a hat trick, which just was perfect. It's back-to-back hat tricks for him. A few other little returns here and there. Watkins did get returned. Probably was best to hold for Isak for another week just to see how we got against Tottenham. But those things happen. Havertz, Saka and Havertz both coming in with returns. Trent with a clean sheet. Overall, yeah, I'm really happy with how game week 3 went. As I said, a small red arrow, but you know what? It's not too bad. So I'm going to jump into my transfer plans now, and also I'm going to show you guys what my wild card for game week 4 is looking like currently. So here are my top 3 targets ahead of game week 4. Now, obviously, bear in mind, it is the international break for the next 2 weeks. So that if you have got free transfers, you're not using a wild card, you're not using a chip, my advice is, even if price rises are happening, just hold your transfer, because international break spans over the course of 2 weeks. There's a high chance that players will come back injured. Some players may come back late and may not be available to start for the first game week back in 4. So yeah, if you've got a free transfer or you have multiple free transfers, my advice would be just to hold them for now and just use them as we get closer and closer to that game week 4 deadline. So first up on my transfer target is a 2 pair, and that is Danny Welbeck and João Pedro. Now, it was really difficult to choose between them both because they are both at the same price. Brighton are looking really well. Maybe a little bit fortuitous that they got a result against Arsenal on the weekend. That red card. I'm sure that we'll save that for another time and place. But yeah, Brighton obviously come away with a good result against Arsenal at the Emirates. So João Pedro getting on the score sheet again. And Brighton looking just really good overall. They've got 2 favourable fixtures coming up now against Ipswich and Nottingham Forest, both at home. So I think one of the Brighton attackers, one, just to enable budget, but 2, because these are 2 prime fixtures you want to target, I think isn't a bad thing. Now, I'm going to get onto my wildcard in the next section, but I've actually brought both of them in because they were both predicted to rise last night. So I wasn't sure which one I was going to keep. So I thought, let me just get both of them in now, get the 0.1. They might go up by 0.2 again. And then, I don't know if I'll go into game week 4 with both of them, but I think one of them is definitely a viable option. Obviously, João Pedro has the upside of being on penalties, but, Welbeck's been playing really well this season as well. So I think either way, you've got a good asset in both of them, for the price they are and for the fixtures they've got coming up. But yeah, I couldn't pick between them, so I've put both of them down. Now, the next up on this list is Rico Lewis from Man City, and just before we get into it, I'm going to err on the side of caution that if you do bring him in, just be prepared that there could be rotation with him. I think that's one of the things that if you own Rico Lewis or you're looking to go to Rico Lewis, he's a great option if he carries on playing. He's been so attacking, picked up an assist against West Ham, and at the price he's at going to that City defence, they will keep clean sheets over the course of the season. We know City historically, sort of win games 3-4-0 and then end up conceding like a silly goal throughout the game. So it's just what it is. But City's clean sheets will come. I do expect Kyle Walker to come back in at some point. I'm looking at possibly the Arsenal game that I think maybe he might get brought in, because Kyle Walker's too good to be sitting on the bench for the whole season. So I think if you've got Rico Lewis, just err on the side of caution with him and just make sure that you have another 4.5 or another defender that you can rotate just in case he's not in the starting lineup. City are usually quite good for early team news. So I think most weeks, providing that they are playing, in one of the first games, we should sort of get news about whether or not Rico Lewis is starting. But yeah, for me, someone who I'm going to bring in personally this week as well, but just err on the side of caution that if you do bring him in, just make sure you have another player to rotate with him just in case he doesn't actually play. Now, the last transfer that I've got on this list is not a player, it's just a team, and it's the Aston Villa defence. Now, they are about to start on their really good run of like 3-4 games, and I do think there's a quite high upside with Villa's defence. Now, I don't think they're as good as what people make out. However, I do think over this run that they should be getting I'd say 2 out of 4 clean sheets should be coming through for Aston Villa. So you've got options, Pau Torres, Ezri Konsa, they're all the same sort of price. If you want to go for a bit more guarantee as Champions League starts to come, you've got Martinez in goal, which is what I'm going to go with on my wild card. But I do think owning an Aston Villa defender for this next sort of 3-4 weeks could be quite beneficial and could be quite a differential, because at the time of recording, this is Monday morning, but all of them are currently quite low owned. So most of them are under 10% right now. So yeah, if you do pick up an Aston Villa, I do think, you should expect to see some sort of clean sheets coming back over the next few weeks. So yeah, we're not going to specify on one player, but just the overall defense in general, because they've got multiple options you can go to. So like I said, at the time of recording this video, it's currently Monday morning. So I did activate my wild card on Sunday evening just to get in before some of the price rises happened. Also the transfer that I made for Ollie Watkins in for the week just gone, he's actually dropping. So I had to get rid of him last night because he actually did drop to 8.9. So yeah, for me, this is the team that I'm going with. As you can see, one big notable addition to my team, and that is Mo Salah is in there now. I have to take my Arsenal assets out to make this work. So Havertz had to come out. Obviously, Saka had to move so that I could go up to Salah. This wildcard team is sort of for the next sort of 3-4 weeks. I am going to plan to get those Arsenal assets back in before game week 6, at least some of them. The hard part, though, however, is that obviously I had to get rid of all of them. So Saliba as well. And as you can see, my defense isn't exactly got filled with premiums. Now, that is partly because I've got Cole Palmer in this team too, who I think over the next few weeks might be quite important. There was a contemplation for me to go with him or Jackson, because I didn't know if doubling up on Brighton's attack was the right choice. Cole Palmer just seems to be a bonus points magnet, even like yesterday, he only got an assist, still managed to end up getting, his BPS like really high. So for me, yeah, I thought, let me just pay the extra bit of money and just get him in there. Like I said, the problem with this team is, though, and this is the one thing I'm facing right now, is when I do want to get the Arsenal assets back in, if it's a Havertz, if it's a Saliba, I need to drop Palmer down to someone else, but then use an extra transfer to move either a forward up or to move a defender up. So that's one thing that I am thinking about, and I will think about more in detail over this international break, whether or not I want to invest all my money into the midfield and not be able to move defense and attack when I need to. Also, there's a few teams that are going to start on a good run from sort of game week 6. Arsenal's one of them. City's another one from game week 7. Liverpool still got good fixtures. Good and Brian and Burmo, Johan Vissa. There's players there that are going to start to embark on good runs, and players that you'd probably want to jump on for a couple of weeks. Like I said, I don't know if tying up all my money in 2 big midfield assets in Salah and Palmer is the way to go. Now, Salah for me was someone that at the start of the season I was okay owning Jota with, but he's just shown over the course of the first 3 weeks that he is one of the best in the league for that reason, especially in terms of FPL points, double-digit hauls every single week. Over the next sort of 2, 3, 4 game weeks, Haaland might not be the best captaincy, so you're going to have to look for an ulterior motive, and that for me will be Mo Salah. He plays the most minutes out of that Liverpool attack. He's on penalties, and he's just almost inevitable. He just seems to rack up points even if he's playing bad. So yeah, for me, Salah had to be the first one in on that wild card. Jota, I was umming and ahhing about moving Jota to Diaz. Now, I don't want to be too reactionary, because obviously Diaz has started the season really well, back-to-back double points for him, whereas Jota still hasn't even got double points once this season. Didn't have hardly any expected goal involvement in that Man United game, which does worry me ever so slightly, whereas Luis Diaz was way up there. Obviously got himself a brace, and his overall stats for the season, he's almost averaging 1 expected goal involvement per game. So for me, Diaz has definitely got the better underlying numbers right now. However, the one thing that I was looking at with Jota and him is that Jota is an exceptional finisher. So even if his XG is low, it doesn't take much for him to actually score a chance. So I think it's a toss-up between them two, but I think it's going to be one of those things where Diaz has 1 week, where he does well, Jota will have another week, and I think over the course of the season, it will balance itself out. I think if there's one Liverpool asset you should be going for, it is Mo Salah over them two. I wouldn't look at them two as cover to Mo Salah. You have to look at them as completely different assets. Salah's priced at the price he is because he is that good. Them two are priced at the way they are because maybe that level of consistency isn't there as well. So yeah, for me, Salah had to be in here. I'm in iron about the Jota and Diaz move, but I think for the time being, I'll just hold on to Diogo Jota. And then, going on to the attack, like I said in the previous section, I've gone for both the Brighton boys. Whether I start in game week 4 with them or not, I'm not sure. I don't really like being tripled up on them. Obviously, I've got Lewis Dunk in defence. Obviously, they've got the next 2 fixtures, which are great, game week 4 and game week 5. But after that, it does get a little bit tetchy in there. So Dunk's probably not someone that I would want to own. Maybe I wouldn't want to double up on their attack either. This is just some food for thought right now. Like I said, it's a very early wildcard draft, and I'm going to bring out a video probably later on this week of an actual wildcard, once I've had a few days just to sit down and look at it properly. But yeah, this is my initial reaction to my wildcard, and yeah, this is the team that I've got up so far. I'm just going to run over some key questions quickly that I saw sort of pop up on Twitter last night around, different topics, different players. First one being the biggest one. Salah versus Haaland. Do we need both? Do we need one? Do we need the other? To be honest with you, the way they've both started this season, they're sort of neck and neck for points. If you own Salah or you own Haaland, you've probably captained them for every week, and you've probably done quite well out of it. I think Haaland's just edging it ever so slightly, but I don't think that there's a lot in it. To be honest with you, I think either way is viable. The people who own Haaland will argue that he's going to be the top goal scorer of this season. He probably will be. The people who own Salah will argue that you save 2.5 million difference between them both, so that money could go elsewhere. Also a viable option. The guys who've got both of them, like myself now, will argue that you've got the best captaincy choices every single week, but the rest of the team suffers because you own both of them. So there's pros and cons to all different ways. I don't think there's this season in particular that there's one set team that is head and shoulders better than everyone else. One thing I will say is don't beat yourself up too bad, because I saw a lot of people last night, having arguments on Twitter about, the Haaland owners versus the Salah owners, who's doing better, why this one's right, why this one's wrong. To be honest with you, my best advice is just play FPL the way you want to play it, and just play it, how you feel is best, because there is no right or wrong answer this season. There's so many premium assets that we can't get to them all. So there's going to be weeks that, Son goes off and Saka doesn't. There'll be weeks that Saka goes off and Palmer doesn't. It's just part and parcel of the game this year. So yeah, if you're one of those people who are sort of, a little bit down because you didn't have Haaland on captaincy, even though Salah did return last night, don't beat yourself up too bad about it, because it's going to swing around about. Obviously Salah now has the better fixtures for the next sort of 3-4 weeks. So if you own Salah, you're probably going to captain him. So yeah, it chops and changes week by week, but don't beat yourself up and don't get too caught up on that. It's still very early on. We're only 3 weeks into the season. Rank and team value and all that stuff. It's important, but not to the stage where you need to let it actually affect you and the way you're thinking about FPL. Okay, second up is what to do with the Arsenal assets. Now, I touched on it briefly in the wildcard explanation bit. I've actually took my Arsenal assets out. Now, they've got Tottenham away after the international break, followed by City away. So I think if there's any one time that you want to come away from Arsenal, it's probably now. Now, don't get me wrong. I expect them to go to Tottenham and actually get a result. I don't think Tottenham are necessarily that great. I don't think they're a groundbreaking team. I do expect Arsenal to go there, keep a clean sheet and get the win, if I'm being truthful. Man City will be a tougher game. That one, I truthfully don't know how that's going to go. At the time of recording, I don't actually know if Declan Rice is going to be suspended for that, which could affect how Arsenal plays. So there's a whole host of factors in it. For me personally, I think, like I said, if you're on a wild card, maybe now might be a good time to sort of take the Arsenal assets out while you don't have to, waste transfers on them. There's other alternatives right now who have got, just as good, if not better fixtures than Arsenal for a lot cheaper price as well. So I think it's one of those things that we're going to see that a lot this year, where you're going to have to juggle between different players and different teams based on, the price of them, the fixtures that they've got, and the form that they're in as well. I think that's another thing that comes into play as well. So yeah, for me, right now, I've come off the Arsenal assets, but with a view that it's a short-term thing, and that game week 6, game week 7, they will be coming back in slowly but surely. And the final question on this is what to do if you have Ollie Watkins. Now, like I said, he has actually unfortunately dropped in price. So if you did own him and you haven't transferred him out before last night, then you have lost 0.1 million. I find Ollie Watkins a very strange one, because the first 3 games, he's played just over an hour, which obviously isn't ideal when you're paying 9 million for an asset. And especially with the run that Aston Villa are on right now, you're going to want him to play 90 minutes because he's playing against very favourable teams for him. My worry for him is I thought the first 2 games might be fitness related. Now that it's gone into the 3rd game, I do ask, is he that unfit that he can't play through 90 minutes? Or is there a reason why he's only getting to the hour mark? I'm truthfully not sure. The thing that worries me is that every time Duran comes off the bench and on, he impacts the game in a good way. Like, he come off the bench on Saturday and scored within 2 minutes of coming on. So for me, it doesn't bode well for Ollie Watkins. Now, if you've got him, I think you just hold him, because their fixtures are so good. He probably will start. I think the biggest worry will be that he keeps getting subbed off early. I don't think there's ever a world in that Ollie Watkins is going to get benched. Duran will start. I think either both of them will play together, or it'll be Watkins starting with Duran coming on. But it is a little bit worrying and a little bit concerning that he keeps getting subbed off before the 60th minute. But like I said, if you're not using a wild card this week, don't use your free transfer to get rid of him now. If the price drop's already happened. So if you're seeing this video after the price drop, then definitely hold them. Don't waste your transfers yet, because we don't know how players are going to come back through injury. And to be honest with you, Watkins goes into a game against Everton after the international break, which is a game that you'd probably want to keep him for, judging by how Everton have been playing. I didn't think that they could hit a lower after their 4-0 loss against Spurs, and then they were 2-0 up in the 87th minute against Bournemouth and somehow managed to lose the game 3-0. So if there's any game that you want to target right now, it would be the Everton one. So yeah, for me, if you've got Ollie Watkins, just hold him. If he does get pulled off again in the Everton game after an hour, then I think serious questions have to be asked whether or not he is the right man going forward long term. But for now, just have some patience, let the international break come and go, and then just recuperate and resume on Watkins after game week 4. Let him have the Everton game and just see what happens after that. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. I will be back at points this week with a updated wildcard draft. Like I said, I'm going to go through a couple of days, just having a little play around with it, just see what I can come up with. But I will bring you an updated video on that. I'll bring you another updated video on FPL Challenge. We'll just go over how the game week went, and we'll look forward to the next game week, which is game week 4. And then, yeah, there should be another video next week for a final team selection as we get closer to the deadline. So, yeah, we've got a few bits coming through over the next 2 weeks of international break. So make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications so you get the alert when those videos pop up. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.